Everybody, how you all doing today?
Yeah, Jim.
Yeah, all good, all good. So great to see so many people on. Lots of different countries represented as well. A few more people waiting to come in. So we'll just hold on a second as there's a few more just joining. And then we'll get ready for today's session. Today's third session. So Gavin and I were just talking. We're excited about the lineup that we've got over the coming weeks and the next month or so. We've got some exciting speakers and some good topics lined up. So yeah, we'll make a start. So as always, everybody that's on the call here or on the Zoom, you know, if you can, keep your microphones on mute while we're going to present today. But we want this to be as interactive as possible. So if you've got a question along the way, feel free to raise your hands. You can tap the screen and raise your hand, or put the question in the chat box. I'll be facilitating the questions today. And obviously today's speaker is none other than our own GAVIN-GRENVILLE WOOD. Gavin, how are you doing today?
I'm off mute. I'm good to go. Yeah, excited to have this this chat with everybody. So welcome. We've got, just looking through the countries, we've got representatives out in Asia, the US, Europe, Middle East. Pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, exciting.
And Middlesbrough.
And Middlesbrough, there you go. Yeah. So, Gav, the title of the topic today is A Philosophy Behind Teaching Children. I think we can all agree that in whatever location we are, whether we run a specific kids-focused academy or a Leadbetter Kids Golf Academy, we all interact with juniors. We all have a huge responsibility to help them develop and, you know, hopefully fall in love with the game, which I know you want to talk about today. But I think sometimes it's very easy for us to forget how much of an influencer we are as a coach. And I think we have a duty of care with that. So I'd love you to try, and I know you've got some things prepared, I'd love you to try and bring to life a little bit your kind of thoughts on a philosophy behind teaching children, and especially from a Leadbetter Kids point of view. And then, like we said to everybody, if you've got questions, please interact when you can along the way. Gavin's going to present a few slides and go through a few topics, and then we'll open it up and see if we can get some good conversation going. So, Gav, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Stu. I'm really excited by this. Most of you have spent some time with me one way or another, and you know I'm really passionate and excited about what we all do and the opportunity that we all have. My goals professionally really revolve around getting as many kids playing the game as possible, protecting the future of the sport, and you know, providing these kids with a great opportunity for you know, for want of a better cheesy expression, for a better life. And we know that golf has the ability to do that. I am really worried that as of 2014 and well, 2016 confirmed the figures that 70% of kids quit playing sport when they're 13. And I mean, that's a massively worrying figure. And to me, I think it's symbolic of the fact that we have kept on doing the same things over and over for the last few years without really changing the way that we do coaching, right? So I do like to spend a lot of time with all of our coaches, and obviously the conversations are varied, but outside of that, I spend a good deal of time talking to professionals in the world of child education, child psychology, trying to look at the idea of coaching from a completely different angle. I'm moving away from learning, I guess, what other coaches do, because, you know, most other entities out there tend to coach a program or to coach the way or to project what they do as coaches. And that's all well and good, but there's so much of it is the same and very, very similar. So I want to move away from that and actually find out what at the heart of education and coaching do we need to get to grips with in order to, I guess, enhance the lives of the kids that we interact with, and to provide a future for the sport. So, you know, oh, just make sure you guys have your mics turned off, please. There you go. That was kind of a loud one for me. Don't know about you guys. So this philosophy concept is very new, and you know, from everything that that we've talked about, is about creating your own identity when you're coaching, not about us providing you with a program to coach, but for you to create your own based on your surroundings, based on your own coaching DNA, what you believe in, and of course, based on the kids that you teach. They're going to vary from club to club, and certainly from country to country and from continent to continent. So we have to understand the importance of why we need to be individuals as coaching. So this philosophy is really just the start, or the presentation of this philosophy is just the start, really, as we evolve over the next few months. So I'm going to share my screen with you and just work through this fairly quickly. Just before we get started with it, it's all fairly simple, but the purpose of what I want to go through will give you an idea behind why and how, so that we obviously can take that information and move forward with it. What I think you'll learn from it is the real need for us to adapt what we do, and think absolutely about the kids that we're coaching, how they learn, how they acquire new skills, and the most important thing, why they would be engaged in our sport for a long period of time. And then obviously at the end of it, just understanding what you can do next to set the ball rolling. And if you want to pick up on anything after this call individually, then obviously, you know, you've got my number. You are more than welcome to reach out to me or to Stu about anything with this topic. So let's just move on to the first bit, and just understanding what a philosophy is. And you know, I got this from Google, I'm not going to lie, as most things are, but it's a particular system of beliefs, values, and principles. And you know, I want you ultimately to think about what your philosophy would look like. We can kind of present what our philosophy is as a brand effectively, but when you take everything into consideration, what will your philosophy kind of look like? So next one is basically what is culture, and these topics will kind of overlap. A culture consists of abstract ideas, values, and perceptions of the world that inform and are reflected in people's behavior. For me, culture is something that you feel rather than something that you see. And I think when I get my parents and kids walking into my academy, I want them to feel that they're in an environment. I want them to feel what it is we're about. It's a difficult one to kind of wrap up and explain. I think if you've felt that yourselves, you'll know what I'm talking about. But everybody will feel the same thing, so it's kind of shared by the group. And it's something that will develop over time. So a new kid coming into your academy won't understand what that culture feels like. They'll kind of learn and pick up on it from other kids, from habits that they see exist, and certainly from you as the coach and how you project the way that you want things to be done. And then the next slide should just give us an understanding of what the environment is. And the environment, the culture, the philosophy, they all intertwine. And an environment for me is a physical entity. But as the description here kind of states, it's a learning environment that refers to the diverse physical locations, contexts, and cultures in which the students learn. So the reason why I feel like we need to change the way that we coach children is that we have to move away from us telling kids what to do. And we've got to move into the creation of this environment where kids experience what it is we ultimately want them to learn, and they are the ones that are becoming more inquisitive about how to get better. So, you know, let's just typically talk briefly on the start of a session with the kids. We'd have a free play session or a warm-up session to get going. That could be anything. But then the next thing is when we get into the golf activity, it's about creating and setting up a game which they play. And it could be a challenge as well, but there is going to be an objective for them to try and overcome with this particular game. And it is for you to explain what they've got to do, and then to stand back and to watch what's going on and to scan the activity. And I think this is really important, because you've got to give the opportunity to the kids for them to experience what it is you're ultimately trying to teach them. So it could be as real simple as aiming, right? We know that that's simple, but it's a very, very common mistake. So what challenge could you set up that would promote aiming? Well, I would set up a tunnel with a putter and a ball and get them to putt the ball down the tunnel. Now, of course, aiming often refers to where the club face is pointing at setup. Of course, there are many factors that affect where the club face is pointing as they're actually making impact with the ball. So that all kind of snowballs effectively. But if you're keeping it really simple, then the challenge would be, right, I need you to putt that ball through that tunnel. We're just going to focus on where your putter's pointing at the start. So they get to experience that. You've got to watch them. And you wouldn't necessarily tell them any information apart from what the challenge is. And you stand back and you watch what's going on. You watch some kids succeed, you watch some kids fail, you watch the emotions, you watch them get aggravated with themselves when they can't figure out what they're doing wrong. And what you're doing is you are getting these kids into a sweet spot, ultimately, where they're the ones that are asking the questions, they're becoming inquisitive about how they can get better. If you have a little reward on the back end, then they're going to be motivated to want to be good at this particular task. But, you know, you scanning, watching what's going on takes particular presence of mind not to say anything and to let the activity play out. And if you let it play out for 10, 15 minutes or so, whatever the game or the activity it is that you're playing, you're going to give the kids an opportunity to feel what it is you're expecting of them. So that once they've been through the frustrations that they inevitably go through when they acquire a new skill, they're going to be better placed to listen and understand what it is you're trying to get them to do. So I wouldn't have, if I'm teaching a group of kids, I'm not going to have a whole lot of topics that I'm going to discuss. So it might just be aiming, you know, at setup. You know, where do we want to make sure the putter is pointing when you set up? How best can we do that? What little strategies and tips can we give you that will help you? What processes can you go through to make sure it's right, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to be more receptive to that if they've experienced why. And if you reverse that and you sit the kids down or you stand them up and you preach at them before the activity, they're not going to be able to relate to that necessarily. And of course, I'm talking about this in very basic terms right now. But if this is a very simple instance of the context with which I'm trying to explain this, it can evolve to a whole multitude of different topics that you want to teach your kids. And that would obviously vary depending on their ability and progress as well. So we want them to be engaged. And I thought about this a couple of weeks ago, actually, about having fun. Fun is kind of hollow for me. There's not much substance to it when you just describe it as fun, because fun, what's fun for me might not be fun for the kids. What's fun for one kid might not be fun for another. But when you create these challenges and you create opportunities for kids to be successful, for kids to feel engaged, they are going to find their own reasons for finding that activity fun. And the same activity can be fun for different kids if you let them get what they individually want to get out of it. So for me, fun is defined as a kid that's engaged, a kid that's feeling successful or accomplished, achieving things. And it's looking at it from a different angle than what we might have done before. Just going to move on to what we feel our philosophy is, and it's a starting point, and I've no doubt that this might evolve over a period of time. But the first thing that we must stand by is that we have to ensure that everything we do facilitates kids falling in love with the game for a lifetime. I'm not so sure that we can really begin teaching a kid any real technical stuff until they've at least displayed a love for the sport at their level, on their terms, because otherwise they're just not going to see the point in it. We need to make sure that golf is played on their terms initially. And yes, I'm talking about the younger age group. I'm not talking about the teenagers necessarily. And we know that teenagers will derive their own levels of enjoyment from the sport in different ways, whether it's success-based, whether it's social interaction, as an example of just two. But for the younger kids, they've got to find engagement in the activities enough to provide them the reason to come back next week. And you keep going and keep doing that until they love the sport enough to want to learn more about it. So again, it's about creating that environment. And so the second point being that we have to create an environment where kids can develop physically, emotionally, mentally, and socially. And this speaks very much to David's holistic approach to coaching. Ideally, we're coaching the individual first and the athlete second, because they're going to be better placed to become better athletes if they are stronger mentally. So those are 2 points that make sense at the moment. No doubt they can and should evolve, and it's not going to be set in stone. And as we learn more about how kids engage and how kids learn, then that naturally has to change as well. But looking at what this is, for me, on a regular basis, we have to critically analyze what we do and continually review what we do with our kids in our group settings. And that can be done any number of ways, whether you video the session, watch it back, whether you get feedback from the parents or get feedback from the kids. Getting feedback from the kids, I think, is really valuable. And if you encourage an open and honest environment, then they're not going to tell you what they think you want to hear. They're going to tell you what they feel about it. And that's really important for them to feel like they're a part of the process. It's part of this engagement process. And one of the behaviors that, I talk a fair bit about, Mark Bennett, he talks about this a lot, where the kids contribute to the sessions and how they're built out for the future. And that feedback on your performance as a coach, on the session itself, is really, really valuable to stay true to what the philosophy should be. So the third point I made at the very start was, what to do next and how you bring this to life yourselves. It's similar to you creating the program. We have all of the digital assets of the curriculum and the library in the software, and I'll make it available to anybody that wants it in a different format. But ultimately, when you have a library of resources that will help you put together your sessions, you can tailor-make a program that suits you, that suits who you're teaching, the type of kids that you've got. It speaks to your DNA as a coach, and it also fits in to the physical environment that you're coaching in. And everybody's academy, club, location, they're all completely different. Some are indoors, some are outdoors, some have floodlights, some don't. Some facilities have the ability to teach the kids for 90 minutes as opposed to 45, as an example. So again, it's making sure that you create something for you rather than you being provided with someone else's program to teach, because that way you're going to take ownership of it. And one of the key parts to engaging the kid is using your personality, letting that shine through so that the kids can build a relationship with you. So I have one more slide to show you, but I'll do that towards the end. So I'll stop sharing my screen. And Stu, just keen to hear your feedback on that first before we go into some questions and a little bit more of a discussion. But keen to stress, as I said at the start, this is a starting point, but it is the start of having to change the way that we teach our kids, the way that we have been doing things.
Yeah, no, I think, Gavin, I think everybody will agree that there's so many key points there, and empowering the children to, you know, come up with the ideas, come up with the sessions, shows that you're listening to them and that you trust them as well. And I think, like Leah just put, it's hilarious to see what they come up sometimes with, but it actually gives you a great insight into seeing how they think, how they take what they're doing. And it helps you then understand them better as a coach, and you can point them probably easier in the direction that you want to go, because you've got a better idea of how to connect with them. And I think a lot of that is the connectivity, isn't it? Is making sure that, you know, we've all experienced junior coaching in the past, and I've fallen foul to this, that you plan your sessions perfect. You go, right, I want to be organized. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to teach them this. And it becomes a bit of a preaching session. And the reality is the kids don't have time to explore things and learn for themselves. They don't have time to maybe give feedback, or they're not asked for their feedback. They're not asked to be an integral part of the lesson. They just get told what to do. And I think we all know that, you know, even with kind of older kids that I teach, I always say to them, you know, what do you want to do today? What do you think is going to help your golf? How would you like us to do that? And obviously you'll tailor your session and move it in a direction that you want to go in a little bit. But, you know, at that young age, you've really got to, you know, you've got to make sure that you get them enjoying it, haven't you? And I think you said such a key point before, what we perceive to be might be fun in the session is maybe not what the kids see as fun. And letting them take reins a little bit, letting them tell you what they'd like to do. And, you know, as a coach, you can always angle it in a certain way that suits the needs of what you think they need to get out of it as well. But yeah, I think there's some interesting things. I know Darren, just after you'd started talking a little bit about some stats there, Gavin, he said there's another interesting UK stat as well from the schools. And if Darren's willing to open his mic up and share it with us, I think it would be great to hear that.
Hi, all. Yeah, it was actually not UK, it was South Lincolnshire, really. And when I channeled my energy into junior coaching, which would have been 2011, and this sort of ties in with your age group philosophies at Leadbetter. Under 11, as in primary school age, 98% of kids engaged in after school clubs. And then 6 months later, that dropped to 48% when they went, as in going to secondary schools. So again, to me, it shows the importance of engaging the youngsters quickly and getting them wanting to be golfers, because when they hit secondary school for various reasons, numbers just drop off big time. Wish I could find another stat.
There have to be stepping stones in place for the kids, and they have to constantly feel like they're achieving something. I'm not a huge fan of going to a school for an entire term, because I just feel like that the activities will end up being boring for the kids after a while. They're doing the same things in the same little environment. And what we need to do is to get into school as quickly as possible, get out as quickly as possible, I should say, with the kids, out onto the golf course, playing golf. You know, real clubs, real balls, let's go. Because the game of golf it's an amazing sport. We don't need to change it. Of course, we could always play it quicker. But, you know, it is self-fulfilling in so many ways. And we know that because we're all here still doing it. So I'm not shocked by those numbers, and they match. One thing I found going through various studies is pretty much the same all over. I exclude Asia from that. It's a slightly different ball game over there, but generally in the Western world, you get these huge drop-offs rates when the kids become teenagers.
Yeah, another thing, Gavin, I think Stuart Campbell just raised a good point. I probably touched upon it a little bit, where I think some of us not fall foul, but we kind of maybe so focused on the golf lesson experience versus just a golfing experience. What are your thoughts, obviously, with the Leadbetter Kids in mind and that whole junior of a golf lesson versus more the golf experience, which I think is more what we're talking about, isn't it?
Sorry, were you talking to me or to Stuart?
Yeah, to you. Yeah,
okay, cool.
Kind of posted it would be a good topic to discuss, but we can bring Stuart in as well.
Yeah, I've got I had nearly a 2-hour chat this morning with James Nottingham. Now, those of you that remember, James is from a company called Challenging Learning, and he's responsible for the Learning Pit and the concept behind that, very much in the classroom and stuff. But he is incredibly worried about not kids falling behind academically. And the irony is here that, and I'll get to your point in a minute, Stuart, but people keep talking about kids falling behind, but what are they falling behind? Because there aren't any tests, and everything they're learning up to GCSE is all about the test. So we don't really know what it is they're falling behind in terms of the academics, but 100% absolute is that they are falling behind in terms of their interaction and socialization with each other. We need to emphasize what this generation is missing, and it's huge. And one of the upshots of our conversation is that kids just have to be allowed to get back and play when we can get back to playing golf. And certainly a theme for summer camps, as an example, should be just around play, socialization, and interaction. You know, let's cut the coaching out to an extent, but let's just provide the opportunity for them to love it and to interact with each other, because that is going to be more powerful than teaching them how to hold it, as an example. You know, that's a pretty extreme example, but the experience that a child gets from a session with you will vary from one child to the next. And your skill has to be able to interact with each child and appreciate the differences between each child that's in your care for that hour or however long it is. So I think it's really challenging. And that's why I also believe that we are going to have to continue to evolve our skills as coaches forevermore, always picking up on little strategies and tips and how we can better ourselves, so that all the time when we go back to review our philosophy, when we critically analyze what we do on a weekly basis, we can pinpoint where we've been successful and pinpoint where we've fallen below our own high standards. And we have to be accountable to ourselves, which ultimately then means we're accountable to the kids. So I hope that in a roundabout sort of way, Stuart, maybe answers the question.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of good points upon there. And like you said, we critically assess ourselves. I mean, we wouldn't be sat here listening and talking to each other today if we weren't interested in becoming better. And, you know, David's whole mantra of those who dare to teach must never cease to learn. Everybody on the call is obviously embracing that today. And I think, you know, as Stuart mentioned before about reflection as well is a key for us, but also then to empower the kids to reflect, what did you learn? And you might have set up the golfing experience of hitting through a tunnel, but the golf lesson that was embedded in that was they self-solved an issue of learning how to aim the golf club, both at setup and impact, for example. So I think it's one of those things that if you're clever with how you organize things and how you embrace your group, and Leah made a great point, is, you know, be prepared for chaos, you know, and that's not a bad thing. And I remember, Gavin, going to a session in Edinburgh with you, and there was a number of speakers, and, you know, they talked a lot about, you know, it was the guys actually from the Magic Academy, the predominantly more the rugby-based guys. They said a great coaching session to the outsider and to the parents will look like absolute chaos. He said, but to the coach, it's genius. It's like, you know, it does look like chaos, but everybody's doing the things that they really need to be doing. And I thought that was a powerful point. And then, Joe, that kind of leads into your question that parents obviously play a massive role in continued participation. But Joe, if you want to kind of bring that to life, if you want to open your microphone up, that'd be great to hear Gavin's thoughts.
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, I think very, very early on, I think it has to be a priority to discuss with the parent that that primary objective is for them to fall in love with the game and have fun. I think sometimes parents aren't aware what coaches are trying to do in sort of problem-solving activities, and they're expecting to see us out there doing technical drills with them all. And then, you know, kids get to 11, 12 and they're having a great time, but they're not getting any better, or not, you know, they're not going to be elite performers. Do the parents think, well, I'm not going to waste my money on that because, yeah, they like it, but it's not a priority. They should be pursuing something else. So there's a couple of little pitfalls there, and obviously communication between parent and coach goes a long way to avoiding those situations.
I think you know, we have to play the long game. Most of you know my journey as a sports parent, but it was always about playing the long game. It was never about how good the kids were at 12 years old. It's impossible to predict, you know, how far a 12-year-old can possibly take the sport. All you can do is kind of have a roadmap and steer the kids, point them in the right direction. You know, if you're doing the right things that really relate to what engages that particular child, they're going to love the sport primarily enough for you to be able to dive a little bit deeper, for you to be able to expect more from them, right? More from them in terms of becoming better physical athletes, more from them in terms of the time and dedication that you need to become an elite performer. You know, all of these things will become incredibly trying for a kid in their teenage years. And if they don't love it enough, that's why they drop out, because they'll find that boring. They'll just, I just don't want to do it anymore. I've had enough. So you know, the Leadbetter Kids program, when I first came on board, I was a little bit skeptical as to why we were really focusing on the 5 to 12-year-old age group. And actually, you know, the more I think of it, the more wholly necessary it is to really understand the strategies to create a lifelong golfer for this particular age group, because it's a little bit easier. You know, we all have the inherent skills to teach a teenager, but, you know, for us to engage a child between the ages of 5 and 12, I think is so much more difficult. And we are obviously in competition with so many other activities, but, you know, if you apply your personality to the parent and to the child, and the communication links are really strong, you invite the parents into the sessions. Again, it's a fairly new concept, but how many of you have coached recently? Nobody, maybe, but how many of you have actually invited the parents into your lessons? You know, do it, you know, bring them in. And even if it's just for the first 10 minutes, you know, get the kids to lead the warm-up or the play session, the free play session. You know, why is it important to throw an American football around or to throw a frisbee? We know that the skills involved in throwing an American football are very similar to the propulsion skills of that of swinging a golf club, or playing tennis. Similar things like that, right? But it's fun, it's different activity. You know, if the kids and parents are all engaged in that at the start, then you are sending the right message. And the parents are then much more on board with how you do things, but more importantly, why. And then at any point that they would see chaos in your golf lesson, they will understand why it looks like chaos and the benefits that are going to come out of it. And the chaos actually is each individual child almost doing their own thing within the confines of the group environment. And so it's going to look like it could be wholly different from one child to the next, but they're all doing the same sort of thing. It just looks different. And of course, if you own that child, you're going to be looking at the other kids and go, why is he doing that and mine not doing this, and so on. And you're going to have all this conflict going on. But again, if you brought the parents in on the session, you talk to them regularly, they are involved and engaged as much as the kids are. These conversations sometimes don't even exist, but if they do, then the parents will understand far more readily. And then, of course, the conclusion is that by the time the kids get to 13 years old, everybody understands where we're at, and they know what lies ahead. So those of you that that specialize in teaching the more advanced kid, the single-figure handicapper, you've got a more qualified young athlete ready to go through what you require from them in order to get to the levels that you're expecting. I'm getting a suntan, by the way, just FYI.
Yeah,
Hello,
it's not very often that happens.
Hello, Stuart.
Yeah.
Could I just have a quick word with Gavin, just about one thing, please?
Online or offline? You can call me if you want to.
All I was going to say, actually, I've got a lovely story, actually. This little boy who a coach, he comes straight from school. He does his rugby, then comes for his golf lesson. And his granddad has been really unwell and had a bad fall and has got out of hospital, thankfully. And his granddad started to bring him up. So the funny thing is, granddad for the first weeks used to sit in the car and wait for him. And I said to the little fella, I said, look, come on, let's get your granddad and bring him in. He needs to watch what we're doing here. So for the last 3 weeks before lockdown, his granddad would come in, would get him a nice seat, and the whole structure of the lesson was based around standing on impact bags and trying to hit shots, just doing silly stuff. And Charlie would basically tell his granddad what he was going to do with his next shot, and his granddad just sat back there just loving the whole session. And he ran the session, his granddad sort of watched the session, and I just sort of aligned the balls up. It's just brilliant.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. How old was he?
He's 11 years of age.
Nice.
It's when his dad comes, his dad's quite serious, but his granddad just lets Charlie play. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Let the kids play. That's a great motto, I think, at the moment, certainly.
Thanks for that.
No, perfect. Stuart, Barney's made a point here. Barney, do you want to kind of raise your statement stroke question there a little bit and hopefully get a few ideas from a few people that have maybe done some of these things and the success or kind of problems they've faced through it?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously we're on the topic of where kids and teenagers are dropping out of the sport. And obviously, going back to when I was a teenager, a large part of what I did as a teenager was reflected by my friendship group. So I generally followed the interests of what my friends did. That being said, I was probably the only one in my friendship group that played golf. Now, obviously, when it comes to our programs, what do you feel is the benefit of hosting social events potentially outside of academy sessions to create an environment where the 12-year-olds going into that kind of adolescent stage, a teenager stage, have a place where they're creating relationship, creating friendships, so that they have a reason to come back to golf, just as opposed to actually having golf-based sessions where we're teaching them obviously technical aspects of things, but actually there needs to be some sort of an emphasis of giving them a reason to come back. And obviously that social side is a massive aspect of it.
Yeah, I think that's great. I love the idea of playing other sports during summer camps and even during a term time. Putting on sporadic sessions on doing different things. You could put on something outside of normal class time. All sorts of different games and activities that might look completely different, but would speak to the development of a young athlete physically, mentally, socially. In the past, I've done everything from, like leadership training, where you've got to solve a task, you've got a challenge, you've got some equipment, you've got to get from A to B without touching the ground, stuff like that for the older kids. Dodgeball competition is particularly exciting for every single age group, even for the parents. And when you get kids against parents, that is uncontrolled chaos, I might add. But playing football, tennis, frisbee, it could be anything. You could do anything that's creative. And I like the idea of kids running around. I like the kids working in teams and problem solving. I think that's really important. So treasure hunts might be quite good. And you can theme these activities around certain events in the calendar. Find out, when kids are likely to be off school outside of a pandemic. Bank holidays as an example, that was always a good one to make sure that we had some activities for. But again, there's no right or wrong answer with this. It's just about being creative and finding ways that engage children to help promote their social development. I think that's really, really important, especially over the next 2 years, because kids will be deficient in that area. Forget the academic side, because that will be fine. We'll find a different way of measuring them. There's nothing to suggest that the GCSE course really impacts their life necessarily. It's all about just a test, right? So they will lack their social skills. We've got to focus on that. But also then the development of their physicality, I think, will be really important too. So just be creative with it. But I think that's a great concept, Barney.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. Just saying it comes down to knowing your group or your groups, doesn't it? And knowing what activities you might want to put on that will suit them. I think there's been a couple of points on the chat mentioned that, everybody's a little bit different, but if you know your group, you'll go, well, this activity will be great for the group, where this activity, might not suit 3 or 4 of them, therefore the dynamics might not be great, and I'm not really going to get anything out of that, and it's not going to encourage them. So really being in tune with your group. It goes back to, for me, even at a different level, David speaking on the first Under the Hat that we did, he talked a lot about the time that he took to get to know Patrick Reed, talked a lot about different areas of his life. And I think it just shows you, even at that tour level, he's still spending time to really understand the person and then understand how he can get the best out of that person and what he can put in place. And it comes down, doesn't it, Gavin, to the environment that you create, the opportunities that you present, the culture that you help cultivate, and the behaviors that are developed through all that as well, I think, for me.
Yeah. I think we also have to respect the opportunity that we've got as coaches as well, and the importance our role has in society. I know this all sounds very grand and maybe somewhat cheesy, but we have the opportunity to change lives. And if we do it the right way, then we're giving these kids a skill that they can use for the rest of their lives. And we know that golf has a unique knack of providing great opportunity in many different fields for people. So again, just making sure that everything we do points back to engaging these kids, and we want to engage them for a lifetime, but the immediate task is making sure that they're engaged to come back next week and the week after and the week after, and really truly understanding them and who they are. And that's, again, the skills of the golf coach are really important there, so that we can understand the 8 kids in our class and relate what we say to each individual one, despite the fact that it's in a group setting.
Yeah.
What are the points we have, Stu?
I was just going to say, Connor Keown in Ireland, he raised a point that I think we all face, where players get into golf, maybe not just through their desire, but it's more through their parents, and maybe the expectations are a little bit out of line for where the parents are to where the kids are. But Connor, do you want to bring that to life a little bit and kind of see what Gavin's thoughts? I mean, Gavin's much more experienced in this area than I am with the younger kids, but it'd be interesting to hear you bring that to life.
Yeah, so basically, just as I was saying, it was an instance that the kid didn't want to be at golf. And basically the height of his practice was coming to coaching once every week. And then the mum came to me and basically more or less blamed me that he wasn't getting any better. But it was just, he was coming to golf because his parents wanted him to. So I was just wondering if anyone else kind of had them situations or anything like that.
I think we've all had that. I mean, was he dead set against it from the outset?
Yeah, like he'd no interest, and it's just I more said it because the mum came to me, and kind of said, look, he's not getting any better. I think it's more your ability as a coach. But yeah, like I see it quite a bit where the kids are only coming to golf because the parent, it's nearly like a babysitting service in some
I mean, for me,
instances, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I just kind of thought it was funny.
It's not the outcome we want, obviously, for any kid that comes into our environment. But we need to find out really at the beginning when we talk to the parents. You know, this is the part of the information that you've got to gather so that you can start to build relationships with the kid and with the parents. And if in the beginning it becomes particularly apparent that the kid doesn't want to be there, then you have to communicate and flag that up really quickly. You know, within 2 or 3 sessions, it would become apparent that the kid's really not that interested in it. And even more so, I found it with kids that come on their own, without a sibling or without a friend. It's very intimidating for a child to come into a group like that. You know, we know what it's like the first day of school, and a new class or a new school. And this is the same sort of feelings of fear. So we can do everything we can to put them at ease and to make them feel welcome. But ultimately, if they don't have any interest at that point, then it's going to be really tough. To me, the instances of that, I've had a very few and far between, to be fair, given that you said that. I mean, most of the kids that ever knocked on our doors really came from the schools program, and that was an opt-in opportunity for them. So, you know, there was a very real number of kids that made the choices themselves. So I think just to conclude what your point was, I mean, we have to communicate better with the kid and with the parents and just be more upfront with it. Find out what the parents' intentions are from the beginning, really.
Good. I think, Craig, you've raised your hand. If you've got a question or something you'd like to say.
Sorry, there we are. Yeah, just going back to, again, what Gavin said about the importance of what we have, you know, as influencers, as, you know, creating basically life journeys for golfers. I just want to share a little story with you all. 20 years ago, I took over at Cleveland Golf Club as head professional. I'd just come back from working in Italy, coaching, started at the golf club, and basically was told, obviously, of an unruly junior who literally just broke all the rules, was just a nuisance to the members at the golf club, and he just had just this bad label. But one thing, after meeting him, he had a passion for golf. He was 14-year-old. He had a terrible home life, and his only release was golf. I sort of nurtured him a little bit, sort of taught him to play golf, tried to teach him sort of good habits and good behavior and listening to people, even to an extent when he became a scratch golfer representing the club team. And he did 3 weeks in a row. He 10-8'd an opponent in a team match, and I actually said, I think you need to maybe just give him the last hole or half a hole rather than having the embarrassment of a 10-8 defeat. But this young man, you know, he's progressed on now, and Gavin will know him, Stuart maybe knows him, but he's now the head greenkeeper at Seaton Crew Golf Club. He's got a handicap of +6. He's an absolute role model for golfers. You know, when anyone ever speaks to him, you know, everyone's got such a high opinion of him. And yet, when I started with him 20 years ago, he was just labelled as a troublemaker, that he was not right in the head. And all he just did, he just had a passion for golf, and just no one understood it. So I think that's where we've got such a prominent role in guiding people and helping them pursue the love of this sport, because again, that's why we're all here. just the love of the game. Just thought I'd share that.
No, that's great, Craig. I think again, it's just an example of how much power we have to affect somebody's life. That kid clearly needed someone to put an arm around him, and you know, that was clearly done. And who knows, left to the devices of other people in the golf club, he might not have carried on playing the sport and be where he is today. And you know, he's obviously very passionate about what he does. It's brought to life with the quality of golf course he turns out right now, because Seaton Crew is beautiful. So no, that's awesome. And we should, again, never underestimate our powers and importance in the development of kids. Leah, you've got a question, right?
I always have questions, Gavin, but it's just to add on to Craig's point there with that child who was, you know, a problem. I'm dyslexic, so I've had instances before where parents haven't told me if a child has a learning difficulty or a disability, and that can be a bit of an issue as well. So if you have in your group a kid that is a problem or hyperactive, then you have to maybe go a bit deeper and go, well, why are they perhaps like that? And it normally comes down to something like that. They might have a disability or a learning difficulty, but once you know that or access that information, it just unleashes a whole new level of what you can do for that child. So when I think you said at the beginning about, you know, everyone's trying to learn the same thing, you just can't do that. You cannot put everyone in the same learning box. It's impossible, because everyone's brain just processes information so differently. I know I've you know, slipped up before. I've rung you just before Christmas. I had a problem with a kid, and you reminded me of just, there's something going on with that child. Maybe just grab the parent, have a sit down with them, invite them in, and go through it until it's a little bit better. So I just wanted to add that on. So if any of you coaches listening in and thinking of a potential child or a specific child that maybe is displaying that, don't be frightened to ask the parent if they do have some learning difficulty or disability, because it's important for them, but also you've got a safety aspect as well. Because if they are destructive and compromise safety, obviously that can be a potential issue as well. So just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, I mean, typically when I've always defined an unruly child, if that's the way you want to term it, as a child that's not engaged. So the first thing I would do is always try and evaluate and understand what it is I did wrong as the coach. You know, what did I miss? Was I on my game on that particular day, or was I off it? And then beyond that, look at probably what's beneath the surface of that child. Quite often there will be things that we don't know. And I've encountered some horrific stories. So you just never do know what the kid's going through. Even at school, they could be going through some stuff that the parents don't know. And if you build a relationship with all of the kids, and you've created that environment where the kids feel like they can express themselves, they're more likely to kind of fill you in on some of the issues that they're facing, and you then might be able to provide some fairly simple solutions. Or indeed, if it gets a bit deeper than that, then maybe you bring the parents in as well. But just don't look at things at face value. You know, a naughty child is probably not a naughty child. There's some stuff going on there that we need to figure out why they're behaving in that particular way, and start with yourself as the coach and what you're doing, and then maybe look at a few different patterns and things that have been going on, and then bring the parents in. So yeah, it's a really good point, Leah.
Yeah, definitely. Just creating, giving them a voice. I think that's the key, isn't it? Just letting the kids speak in a safe space for them to speak.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think Darren's got a question or a statement there.
Yeah. I'll just follow on from that. I mean, problem children are a passion of mine, coaching, making it accessible. And like with the adults, if you ask adults when they come for a lesson if they've got any injuries or anything they need to talk about, when asked, they're happy to tell you. And it's the same with parents. So now when anybody signs up for any forms with me, be it a holiday camp, there is a box. Is there anything I need to know that will help make these sessions the best they can for your child? And I include as well, are they hearing, hard of hearing, or deaf? I just ask them, and they'll be happy to tell you and talk to you. And it saves all the doesn't mean you're going to get it right, but at least you've got an inside information before you start about what to expect and how to make it work for them.
Yeah, I agree. I think you've got to be armed with as much knowledge as you can when you're working with the players, especially that starting point, don't you?
Yeah, and you need a telephone number for emergency contact details anyway, and put medication. Are they on medication? Is there anything they need to be administered during the session? Just ask them. They'll happily reply. And I've not, touch wood, I've not had one offence, offended by asking it.
No, equally, but you should also, in your relationship with the parents should be such that the conversations don't become difficult. They should become quite easy in the end. And it's difficult, I understand, in the beginning when the kid and the parents are new to what you do, but you've got to start by making them all feel comfortable. That's going to be felt by the culture that you create, that they can feel, the environment that they see in front of them. It all contributes to them being at ease by sharing this information. So I think that's really, really valid, Darren. And again, if you do have questions, it's not to be scared, because it's ultimately for the benefit of the child for which they're paying anyway.
And it breaks the ice as well, which thankfully not many other sports actually go into that detail. So I don't get asked that before. And I said, well, no, because I'm interested in making it the best for your child. I want them to like golf.
Yeah.
Job sorted.
I think I would just add on to that, something within our full certification, we have a small document of just some things I'd pulled together, which were simple tips and strategies that if a child's got dyslexia, dysgraphia, whatever, just kind of as a coach, and it comes back to kind of the whole Leadbetter Kids certification is, we know that dealing with children, you need different skill sets or tools in your coaching toolbox, because generally you're dealing with a big group of kids compared to a one-on-one private lesson with an adult. So if you're going to have 10 kids or 8 kids in your group, the chances are you might have 1 or 2 kids that have something like Leah was talking about. But if we're not armed as a coach to say, how do I actually deal with that to the best of my ability? Have I got the knowledge and some key skill sets or tools? So I'll actually share with all of you kind of that document. It's not elaborate by any means, but there might be 1 or 2 pointers on there that you don't know or might help you in a future session. So I'll make sure I add that into the communication, and obviously, Gavin, your WhatsApp group there for the guys as well.
Yeah, thanks. I think we, as we kind of just begin to wind this down and just bring it back full circle to the whole reason behind this, what I'd love to see, if anybody fancies it, and you can catch up with me offline with this, is for you to kind of take what I've presented today, and I would love to see ideas on what your philosophy might look like. I think that I'd be interested to find out if they would differ and how many similarities there would be. That it has to be simple, because we've got to be able to measure it and understand it, and we have to be able to implement that philosophy and bring it to life. And it, if you're watching from the outside in, which I hope to do when you video your lessons and stuff, I want to be able to see it. I want to see it shine through, so that it's really evident that we are, I guess, consistently on the right track. But we're continually doing the things that we know will create this lifelong golfer. Will create that engagement for this young child that will get them to the next checkpoint, which is when they turn 13, effectively, and then on to bigger and brighter things. So yeah, I'd be keen to see what your philosophies are. You can share that with me either in the WhatsApp group itself, or you can send it privately through WhatsApp as well. Doesn't need to be in any detail, but I'd be really keen to see to see what you guys can come up with. And we'll be dabbling in more of this over the next few months. I know I spoke to James Nottingham today. We've got him as the guest on March the 17th. That's not to be missed. And John O'Sullivan is another one, and he's responsible for Changing the Game project based in the US. So he'll be a guest as well at some point. I'm talking to him later on tonight. But these guys have a different take on engagement. And certainly James himself, diving more into the science of education and how kids learn, and so that we can look outside of the golfing world for inspiration, ideas and strategies that we can all employ. So there's some exciting stuff coming up that will kind of back up what we presented today.
Yeah, no, Gavin, I think as always a fantastic topic, and one that can go in so many different directions. And I know we discussed with these sessions under the hat that every 2-3 weeks we'll have a junior focus. It's very easy to get bogged down into the swing technique that a lot of people always want to do, but we want to make sure these sessions explore all different avenues of the world that we live in coaching, but also bring together speakers from outside of golf as well, and in different areas, because we can always keep learning so much from different things as well. And you talked about some of the speakers you've got lined up there. Next week we've got somebody a little bit different, but more from the performance world. We've got the Open champion and Ryder Cup player Paul Lawrie. Paul's kindly agreed to chat with us next Wednesday, but it will be 7 o'clock in the evening UK, 8 o'clock Europe, 2 p.m. Eastern. So that's next Wednesday. Obviously, one of the topics with Paul's, we'll get back to junior golf as well. He's obviously a major champion. He's played for years on tour, kind of stopped playing a little bit more on the European tour last year, but has had a massive journey with his coaches. He's had a number of really high profile coaches, so it'd be great to explore his expectations of what he got out of coaches, or what he would expect now to get out of a coach. He now coaches himself. He's got 2 boys that are professionals. He has his own junior foundation. He's had it for a number of years in Scotland, that has really brought a lot of kids on through the pathway. And then last year he set up his own sports management agency to help develop the next generation of Scottish players and help support them, get them into events. And then he also set up, kind of the Tartan Pro Tour last year when COVID hit and there wasn't really any events for young aspiring pros. He's obviously put some of his money behind developing some mini events that were well received as well. So I think there's loads of different areas we can go down with Paul. He's kindly agreed to speak with us, so I'll be interested to kind of see where we get to with that. So hopefully you can all join us. I will send an email out tomorrow with the registration link, and then a link to today's session as well. We'll be putting them all on our YouTube channel, but they're kind of unlisted, so you'll need the link to get to them. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Gavin, on behalf of me and everybody there, thank you so much for presenting what you did today and bringing to life some of the topics there.
Yeah, exciting. And again, it's just the start. It's not. It's definitely not the end, and we have to continue to evolve this conversation and our own attitudes towards how kids learn and how we engage them. So I'm really looking forward to the journey over the next few months. I'll be doing a lot of academic work behind the scenes and the science of coaching, and presenting my findings to you and helping you guys on your journeys as well. So if you have anything you want to touch on outside of this, then you know how to get in touch, and obviously more than happy to help. So hope you've enjoyed the topic today. Thank you for listening, and certainly look forward to Paul Lawrie next week. I don't think we'll need a translator, will we, Stu?
No, David suggested we did, but it's okay. I'll ask him to speak slowly. Great. Kevin, guys, everybody stay safe, okay, be well, and as Gavin said, any questions, you know where we are, feel free to reach out, and if not, we'll see you next Wednesday.
Thanks guys.
Everybody.
See ya.